Today question is write a program in Java to input a number and check it is a palindrome number or not. Now what is a palindrome number? A number is said to be a palindrome if you are actually going to read the number in the reverse order, then the same number will generate. Okay, suppose 131. Okay, so in the reverse order, if I just read it also return the number 131. But if I'm just going to enter a number, suppose 142, then if I'm just going to read the number in the reverse order, then it becomes 241, which is not equal to the 142. So this is not a palindrome number. So you can see I have already written the Java code here, and the num variable is declared to store the value which is entered by the user, and r and sum and n2. Okay, why n2 is going to initialized by num? That means the number actually entered by the user which is stored in the variable num, it's copied to another variable n2. Why? I explain it later. By using the while loop, in this while loop I am using the digit extraction technique, and in digit extraction technique the digit will be generated in the reverse order and the individual digit is stored in the variable r, and then I am going to store the reverse digit in the variable sum, and then after I am going to compare. After completing the loop, I am going to compare the sum with n2. If the sum is equals to n2, then it is a palindrome. Otherwise, it is not a palindrome. Okay. Now let's see how this Java code actually work. Let's take an example. Suppose I am enter the value of 121. So you can see already that 121 is a palindrome number. Now I am going to check whether this number is palindrome or not by using this Java code. So in the first step, in step 1, the num value is 121, and as it is also stored in the variable n2, so value of n2 is also become 121. Now r equals to num mod 10, so num is 121, so 121 mod 10, so r becomes 1. Now sum equals to sum into 10 plus r. So initial value of sum is 0, so 0 into 10 plus 1, so 0 plus 1, so the sum become 1. Now num equals to num by 10, so 121 by 10, so num become 12. Now in step 2, num becomes 12, so r equals to num modulo 10, so 12 modulo 10, so r becomes 2, right? So sum equals to sum into 10 plus r, and you can see in the step 1 the value of sum is 1, so 1 into 10 plus r, where r is now 2, so 10 plus 2 it becomes 12, and num equals to num by 10, so value of num is 12, so 12 by 10 and it becomes 1. In the next step, step 3, the initial value of num is 1 and r equals to num mod 10. Now num means the value of num is 1, so 1 mod 10, so r become 1, and sum equals to sum into 10 plus r. And the previous value of r, which is basically generated in the step 2, is 12, so 12 into 10 plus 1, so it becomes 120 plus 1, and sum become 121, and num equals to num by 10, so 1 by 10 equals to 0. In the next step, step 4, num is become 0, so final condition of the while loop is mismatched and it exit from the loop, and then after I am going to check whether the value of sum is equals to n2, and as in the very first step I am just storing the value which is entered by the user 121 as well as in the num variable and into the n2 variable. So I am going to check sum equals to n2. But why not we are actually going to check sum variable with the num variable? Because the value entered by the user is stored in the variable num, not into the n2. We are going to copy the number into, we are actually going to store the copy of the entered number by the user into the variable n2. But you can see in step 4 the value of the num variable is become 0. So if I am going to check sum with num variable, so if though it is a palindrome number, but it's never going to match with the sum value. right? Because the loop will terminate only when the value of num is become 0, and that's why before starting the loop I am just storing the num value in the another variable n2. So n2 is also hold the value of 121, and that's why in the if condition I am going to check sum with the n2 variable, not with the num variable. Okay, so you can see in this step the sum value in the step 3 is 121, and the value of n2 is 121, which is entered by the user. So it is a palindrome number. The statement which is written in the if block is going to execute and print its palindrome, right? So first example, 121 is a palindrome number. Now let's take another example. Okay, so now second example is number is entered by the user is 132, right? So the n2 also becomes 132. Now in the first step, in step 1, the num is 132, so r equals to num mod 10. It means 132 mod 10 and r become 2, right? And sum equals to sum into 10 plus r, and the initial value of sum is 0. So 0 into 10 plus r, where value of r is 2. So 0 plus 2, so sum becomes 2, and num equals to 132 by 10, because num equals to num by 10, and that's why 132 by 10, and the value of num become 13. In the step 2, you can see the value of num is now 13, and so r equals to num mod 10. It means 13 mod 10, and r becomes 3, right? Now sum equals to sum plus sum equals to sum into 10 plus r. So previous value of sum is 2, which is basically generated in the step 1. So 2 into 10 plus 3, and it becomes 20 plus 3, and it becomes, and the value of sum becomes 23. And in the next step, num equals to num by 10. So 13 mod 10 equals to 1. So num becomes 1. In the next step, step 3, the value of num is 1, and r equals to num mod 10. So 1 mod 10, it becomes 1, and sum equals to sum into 10 plus r. So the previous value of sum in step 2 is 23. So 23 into 10 plus 1, so it becomes 230 plus 1, and it becomes, the value of sum becomes 231. And now num equals to num by 10. The value of num is 1 now, and so 1 by 10, and num becomes 0. So in the step 4, as the value of num becomes 0, so the final condition of the loop, while loop, is mismatched. It is not satisfied, so the loop, it exits from the loop, and control goes to the if statement. Now the value of sum is in the step 3, you can see it is 231. The last value of sum is 231, and the value entered by the user is 132, which is also copied to the variable n2. So sum is 231 and n2 is 132, which are not equal, and that's why the else block of the if statement is going to execute and print not palindrome. So as per this Java code, 132 is not a palindrome number, and you can easily the concept that 132 is not a palindrome number. Now you can see I've already taken the number entered by the user in the variable num in this portion, and then after execute all the things which is written in the previous code, and then after I'm just going to run the program. Okay, now enter the value, suppose 121. So you can see it is a palindrome number. Again I am going to run the program. It is 156 suppose. So if I'm just going to reverse this number, it becomes 651. So it is not a palindrome number, right? It is not a palindrome number. Again I run the program and enter the value, suppose very simple value, okay, 11. So 11, if it just reverse this number, then it's also become 11. So it is a palindrome number. By in this technique, by using this Java code, we can easily solve the problem, and we can easily check whether the number entered by the user is a palindrome number or not.